versus Gamma, these veterans of CL. So, we are finally ready to go into game between these two titans, you could say. And we are on Chalet. We are on Bomb, interestingly enough. I wait for the day that they bring hostage in. I'm joking, of course. Can you imagine? God, comp hostage. That'd be awful.
I mean, that's one way to flip the game on its head, isn't it?
Yeah.
One way to switch things up. The Ying ban coming out. Okay, this is very different from what we saw in our previous game. The Thatcher, there we go, a bit more normality. So that's Gamma taking it out. Mkers. It's just interesting, kind of ballsy to ban out the Ying. It leaves the attackers, whether they want to play with Thatcher or not, they opted to get rid of it actually. So Gamma just sort of towing the line, I presume because of this we're going to see quite a standard ban. Valkyrie, incredibly strong operator, means you don't have to be forced into the IQ pick as well. And Makers, I mean, it's kind of up to them. They're starting on defense. What can they live without? And they say they can live without Jaeger, which of course, you know, being targeted nerfs consistently, gadget, weapon, whatever, but usually it still slips through the pool. There is some major operators still on the table. Mira is fully available and decked out for Makers to take advantage of.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about this ban phase that's interesting to me. The main thing being generally the kind of flavor of these bans. You look at Makers bans, they are sort of, they look targeted and prepared. Gammas are fairly stock with the Thatcher and the Valk ban. It's yeah, just about as standard as you'd expect. I mean, to be fair, the Ying kind of forces the Thatcher ban out because you really don't want to let him through, and maybe that, you know, no, going into this, they'll know the sides, they know the intricacies of who's got what map to pick, who's got what, you know, first ban, etc. So they'll know in advance, well in advance of these very important games, what their kind of bans are going to be, who's going to end up having to settle for that Thatcher ban, for instance. The Jaeger ban as well, though, very specific, very targeted by Makers. It shows that they want to utilise those throwables, though, of course, not the ones that belong specifically to Ying. It's going to be the nade, it's going to be the flashbang, it's the more conventional throwables that make their way through these gaps of tension. It depends on how much Gamma rely on that operator, for instance. And you can see Scato, he's on the Wamai, so they do have some of that catching utility, as well as Lolo on the Aruni. Of course, these bans aren't quite as impactful as they used to be since the introduction of a fair number of kind of alternatives. They don't do exactly the same job, of course, but they can do similar, and it just means that, well, I feel like we're at a point where we should have more bans. I feel like a lot of the chat would agree with me. I would really love to see 3 bans per side. You know, the last one's a wild one, either attacker or defenders. There are definitely some problems with that, but I mean, cleverer people can iron out the kinks for me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it sort of, by removing or allowing teams to remove operators from the game, it almost makes it fresher because suddenly you can remove something super, like, think about banning Jaeger 2 years ago, how big that would be if you had the luxury to be able to take out an operator like that alongside whatever else is pretty broken at the time. You know, it really can throw a spanner in the works for certain teams if they're just not comfortable about playing it. We actually saw it in EUCL, I think, a bit as well, is teams, and in the qualifier as well, teams banning out smoke, and it completely messing them up, not really knowing that, you know, they bring the mutants that plays a kind of similar role, but just not able to get that player to fulfill that similar role in site denial. So yeah, I'm in full agreement. I'd love to see 3 bans. Maybe I think 4 per side may be a little bit too much. We'd have to wait for some more operators to come out. Speaking of a little too much, Leonski. There we go. Lolo, first blood, first recipient of the lead. And just like that, Yaruni is off the table.
Thank you very much, Sturdy. We have a fair amount of very invested, of course, people, and very smart people in the chat. I'm not so, you know, mean. Of course, Stern, I'm a smart person. I will, of course, throw shade in his direction when the opportunity comes. But yeah, thank you. He's just informed us that the way that Makers played yesterday, they got messed up by a Ying, and Jaeger was a consistent ban. It was a ban for them yesterday, and I'd assume would be a slightly more consistent ban for them. So that does make some sense of these bans. But we have a minute remaining in the round. Let's turn our attention to that. 4 versus 5. In favour of the attacking side of Gamma, they just add to that with another kill there. Well swung by Avesh, missing a couple of the first shots. Akwi almost got the better of him, but it's that crucial headshot that matters most. And now 3v5 with Makers very much on the back foot here. 40 seconds left. They don't have too much denial, really, in pocket either. They've decided to forgo any sort of smoke or Tachanka. For instance, Astro pushing up very close to the site. Scatter's still a presence upstairs, it would seem. He hasn't been dealt with, but now he has. Down he goes, Gemini as well, and the kills flood in as the final one goes the way of the Twitch. You didn't even really have to enter the building. Nope, I'm mistaken. That kill feed was just the most confusing thing known to man with two downs and then the final kill. Either way, whatever. Gamma get the round. That's the important thing. They've got the 1 on the board.
What impressed me most weirdly enough, for Avage there was, yes, with the first couple rounds, but in the spray managed to control it and secure that kill. A lot of players, you'll see them, their first bullet accuracy is actually ridiculous. Like, it's inhuman how accurate they are. But then as soon as it comes to controlling the sprays, if a mistake is made in the first bullet accuracy or whatever, or the spray isn't quite controlled correctly, then they have to try and reset, and there's that brief time period. So the ability to be able to control a spray without resetting it and waiting for the recoil to subside and moving your mouse and adjusting and then refiring is a skill in itself. And it's just that small little thing that I really wanted to highlight and give praise for, because you know, it almost happens because of a mistake, but it takes skill to correct.
So, second round here. Got the Frost being stuck yet again. Once again as well, we are going down to this kitchen site. Same lineup, same strategy from Makers. They don't want to change anything. They have confidence in their setup. They have confidence in themselves, which is actually a far cry from what we saw for the defenders in the last match, who were flipping and flopping and changing all over the shop. No matter what, they would rotate between the sites constantly. Very different philosophy here. Corey and Astro repelling onto the area. I mean, you can see that Gamma are prioritizing this northern push. No run out at the moment. Nothing quite so brazen from Makers. They're playing fairly passive. Scato in Solarium, but not in the kind of suicide spot at the bottom of the stairs. Instead, he's by the flower beds by bathroom. Corey just droning out said spot and making sure it is clear. Scato just holding this angle now. He's fallen back a bit further to bathroom. He's got a nice little hole in the wall to try and do his best Dale Vincent impression. Gather a few kills from that position. It's not going to happen though. Gamma, again, taking their time about this. They gathered the first kill in the last round, somewhat around this mark, 2-minute mark. And then it was a really slow mid-round. But Scato takes out Corey. No follow-up, it would seem. Astro sends in the nade. It's not cooked. Oh, it is cooked just about long enough. The vault animation taking a little bit too long for Scato's benefit there. And an important refrag comes through from the Yana.
That was huge. That was actually colossal for Gamma. They had to... That frag grenade had to clip. It had to get the Wamaya there. Otherwise, Makers gets out with the person advantage, and then in the later in the round when it comes to executes, even if the Wamaya is very tagged up, it's not going to really help them. Gemini getting spotted out, has to back out the position. Gamma is aware, utilizing the windows really, really effectively. He doesn't even need to go into the site, but working together as a team to cover off each side. Astro's going to be the one to swing, wins out the gunfight into Gemini, reaggresses onto Lolo, who has to back off as well. And with a minute remaining, Makers is getting chipped away closer and closer to demise.
Oh.
Gamma, ooh, is a recipient of their own chipping. There we go, an absolute hammer just busting into the head of Gamma with 2 quick kills, a quick flurry, and with 45 seconds remaining, the tables have turned.
Chips all over the place. Low fish and chip shop right here. Lolo, he's curled up in a corner, but he makes vinegar of Avacious. Now it's a Leonsky 1 versus 3. He gets wrapped up in newspaper and sent home. Akwi finds him through the hatch. It's a quick delivery for the defending side. Makers tie it up 1-1.
Nah, fish and chips is too nice. That what that feels like, I think, for Gamma is when you've had fish and chips. I mean, for anyone who's not from the UK, this isn't going to make a lot of sense.
It's fine.
But when you've left, when they've just been like on the trip home, they've gotten cold. That's what it's like. That's what that round was. You had a great start. It was going really, really well. The smells are just phenomenal, and then you get home and it's cold. Makers win the round. The Italians come through with their own cooking, cook up a storm, and Gamma just not able to really grasp at it. And I think from a team that had a very unfortunate game yesterday, this is an opportunity for them to go, okay, this was a round we had an advantage in. It kind of slipped from us. Makers played some very proactive plays. Let's not lose it. Let's not have a repeat of yesterday where we have a big advantage and it sort of gets... It just goes. Let's just reset our mental, come in with a fresh attitude, and take it round by round.
I was just thinking about the food stuff. As soon as anyone starts talking about food, I realize I'm hungry. Now. Yeah, I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
And like, you know, yeah, you're right. Whenever I think of Italy and the best things about Italy, I always think food. But you've got to think here, Gamma. Got a few Belgians. You've got, you know, Belgian chocolate. Now that stuff. That stuff is good. I am right in saying that there's Belgians on the app, right? I'm not completely losing my mind.
In the Benelux region? Yes, I think it's a Vaish.
Yeah, Vaish is the single Belgian, yeah, on that side. It's a mixed roster. You got Astro's British, Corey's German, and then a couple of Dutch folk. The on-screen DPEG. This is a team that's been together a very long time, bar Corey. Corey, the most recent pickup of all recent pickups, literally, well, at least officially announced 3 hours, I think, before the first game. Which was quite funny, but I don't know. Half the stuff that goes on behind the scenes I don't get up to. I don't have my finger on the pulse of, and I just found that very funny when I found out. Anyway, DPEG is taking down Lolo for an early frag. The way of Gamma, they get that entry kill that they need. Onto a pulse as well. Pretty important piece of this puzzle when it comes to reading into the defense, or reading into the attack, rather.
And I'm just loving the different flavor that Makers is bringing to defense compared to last game.
You say that, and they've already lost a body, though. Like,
I mean, yeah. But I'm just, it's just the operator lineup. The fact that, you know, they're bringing the Maestro. Mirror was banned, but then they've got the Mute, the Vigil, the Pulse. The Pulse is dead. But it's just a different style, a different approach. Gamma, there's definitely some similarities between what was played in the previous game, but it's working for them. They've got the frag grenades. They've got a very sort of Swiss Army knife style of play where they have so many tools at their disposal to try and crack Makers' strategy. And for Makers, they've lost a huge piece with that Pulse. It's relying on him kind of being a menace with that information that he can bring forward, especially with how, especially with the library being above and how sort of enclosed the space is. It's very easy to get reads and information and pings with the heartbeat sensor. Scatter going a little bit, I don't want to say aggressive, but peeking in the big window is a little bit of a risk. Sasha as well going aggressive on the main window into the main bomb site. There's the swing! I was waiting for it. I knew Sasha was going to pounce. You could see poised, like coiled like a snake, ready to just leap forward. And this round is just completely falling apart for Gamma.
Acri finding that latest kill, 2 versus 4. Corey and Astro now left with it all to do. Gemini takes down Astro, and there goes Corey. A near flawless round for the defenders. Once again, Makers rack 1 up. They've taken the lead here, 2-1, and that was a somewhat unconventional defense, as you mentioned during that from Makers. In the grand scheme of things, the very intel-focused defense. We're very much used to seeing that utility dump on the top floor, protecting it at all costs with shields and catching utility, and that wasn't what was brought here. Gamma did, you know, they approached it well, but it wasn't well enough, and I think it may just be a lack of practice against that particular strategy, because I would be surprised if any team are used to taking down a bar defense of that variety. That said, of course, Gamma are an incredibly experienced team, probably one of the most experienced team units, I would say, of the whole of these qualifiers, or this group stage, I should say. So I wouldn't put anything past them right now. Gamma, they are sitting behind in that round count, but I have to say that is a bit of a problem. Looking at this map, looking at the fact that it is Chalet, we just saw an incredibly attacker-favoured Chalet, and that is the way that it can tend to go. I wouldn't be surprised here if Makers are feeling pretty confident after already garnering 2 defences of their own. Anything they get beyond this point, they may feel is a bonus.
Makers are seen quite comfortable, and now they've reverted back to what we've seen, well, for me, pretty much all day, especially with the other Chalet game. You've got an information operator, the mute, the smoke, the Rooney, the how on earth did that? Was that through a barricaded window? Was that?
Oh,
I think. Oh, it.
Was it from the roof
actually.
as well?
It actually
That's a
was.
nice angle.
Oh, that's actually huge. So early on as well with the Wamai, with the magnets regenning as well. That's colossal. That's so good for Gamma.
Very cheeky. Unfortunately for Evase, we do also catch him sending a Twitch drone into a Syria gate. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. They still got the man advantage, though. That's what really counts here. They forced out the Wamai. So, to be honest, a lot of the job that Twitch drone was going to be doing, removing all of the catching utility from those Astro stairs, sorry, Solarium stairs, you know, it's not a problem anymore. He's done most of his job anyway, and he still has a single taser drone in pocket to boot. Deepek getting on this big window position. I love to see players here completely dissect the map in half in terms of that top floor defense. It makes it so hard to rotate and react to what's going on. You really need to send someone to deal with it at some point, or just have Akwi peek the window. That's also a way of dealing with it. Deepek goes down, and we're at a 4 versus 4. I was not expecting that from Akwi. Don't think Deepek was either.
Causing some issues for Gamma. Corey's going to make their way down the back stairs. Gemini is going to be sitting there, but Sasha is the recipient. Vici knows just round the corner, but Akwi's waiting, going to actually pick Sasha up. Vici's potentially the wrong time to go up. Actually going to drop down just at the right second before the defender's going to get peeked through the window. Rotate. 50 seconds remaining. Gamma need to come to some semblance of positioning for that execute. And where on earth was that shot from? It was from above. Akwi takes down Corey.
Nice little drop there. Vaish is so close to the refrag. He doesn't even know it. Scato tags in. Look at that for timing. Great play by the Mutant. Now it's left Astro and Leonski in an unenviable situation here. 25 seconds left. 4 bodies between them and victory. Down goes 1. Akwi, though, still on the hunt, and he will get Astro for free. A triple kill on the round for the Yaruni. The P10 continues to be a menace. Leonski has given up, it would seem. He's swinging on in, and it's only a matter of formality here. Sasha will mop up that player. A solid round from Makers off the back of some brilliant fragging from Akwi.
And here we go. Gamma. That gap starting to really come to fold. There's a timeout called. I believe it's going to be for Gamma.
Makes sense.
There we go.
3 in a row for Makers.
Yep. They need it. They need to just pause that momentum, take stock of what's going on, and sort of reevaluate their plan, because at the moment it's not particularly going their way. So now they've got that breather. They can talk about what the plan's going to be. For Makers, though, they're sitting pretty. Everybody, you know, Gemini, Sasha, Akwi, Lolo, Scato, they're all performing in sort of this explosive, I don't want to say puggy style, but it kind of is, especially with that 2 rounds back as well in the second round. It's this sort of explosive style where they'll just take, you know, Gamma's situated, ready for the execute or what have you, holding certain angles, and then suddenly Makers will just pull the trigger, and then everybody just starts firing and gunning and swinging angles, and Gamma can't react to it. They seem to just be losing out by the overwhelming pressure that Makers is able to dish out against their opponents.
It's a strange one, right? Because I feel as though Gamma aren't necessarily playing bad either. It's just that Makers are playing better. This is one of the higher quality games of Siege I think we've seen so far. There may be those who disagree with me, but I feel as though the fact that Gamma Gaming are not garnering enough attacking rounds on Chalet is probably the only real issue with that, you know, assertion I'm making. The fact is, though, that Gamma, they're not making massive mistakes. Their executions look fairly sound. It's difficult to pinpoint what's going wrong for them, and I feel like that is exactly why they're taking that tactical timeout. They just need to work out what's not working. Because I am at a loss right now. I feel like Makers, they are showing up, certainly. It's not been an individual effort. Acqui did have a bit of a nice highlight round there, but that was, you know, a bit out of the blue. Everyone's been showing up for them so far, and the same goes for Gamma. It's like I said, difficult to find that, but they are the players. They will have a completely different view of things, and they may know what's going wrong for them. Maybe it's the drone game. Maybe it's something that's just slipping under the radar. They're not accounting for everything. Maybe it's a misplacement of occasional small pieces of utility. The micro is so hard to analyze in this perspective sometimes, but that's what these guys will be in on right now. That's what they'll be thinking about. And right now they're going for a far more direct take to the site, it would seem. The kitchen defense, and it's being approached very laterally by Astro at the helm.
It's not even like Gamma's being rolled either. You know, they're doing a lot of good plays, finding good picks. It just comes out to the overall holistic execution when it comes around. When you look at the bigger picture of how all the pieces are moving.
That's a Doki play right there.
But yeah, I know, just running on in and finding a kill, droning yourself in with whatever utility you have. And again, so Gamma get the advantage. They find that opening pick playing proactive. What we see now is Makers sort of hang back, allow Gamma to sort of hold angles. As soon as they get even an idea of where they are, Makers will just swing for it.
Good advantage there gained by Astro, just proving his worth as an entry gunner, and takes out Sasha. There's a C4 gone, that's a Vector dealt with as well. Avage expecting the run out there from Scato, and will easily gobble up the Wamai. That's 2 down for the defenders. Lolo takes a lot of damage, but does win the gunfight against Deepak. Immediately retraded, though, by Astro, who is on a tear this round. 2 for him. Gemini takes out Evasion response as he comes up the stairs. They don't want to be far apart from each other. This is what I love about Makers. They take a loss and they try and regain it as quickly as possible. It's sort of reminiscent of old school G2, where they're always trying to cover each other's backs. Gemini has retaken this master bedroom position. They know it's important for the hold. Losing this vertical would be absolutely diabolical for them, and taking out Astro is a massive boon for the defense of Makers here. 2 versus 2 now. Corey and Lonsky still have plenty of utility in pocket. No nades for the Finker, but still plenty of boosts. One possible drone to maneuver and find these 2 players, and maybe a couple of flank drones already set out from the dead players, but Corey looks like he's just face-checking the top floor. He will come into contact with Gemini fairly soon, but that castle barricade is making things a little bit more problematic for him. With 25 seconds left, they are rotating all the way down to Solarium, and they are going to be met with the presence of Acqui down there.
Acqui's currently top fragging. 7 kills, but Gemini gets decimated by Corey. Oh, the new player on the roster making their presence known, and it's 2 for the price of 1. Corey is in the house, wins the round for Gamma, and they've broken that brief loss streak to make this game a lot more competitive. 3-2 as we go into the final round of the half.
Good stuff from Corey there, showing his worth, making sure that that pickup is valuable. And you know what else was valuable? That tactical timeout. Couldn't have been better placed. They needed an attack round, and they have got it. Bar Gaming is where we're heading next. It's where we saw Makers employ this same very intel-heavy lineup before. They lost the pulse early on in that round, but it didn't matter. They still had enough eyes around to keep a tab on all the entryways. And to be fair, I do like that philosophy for this site. There are a quite substantial number of entry points that you need to be aware of when it comes to anchoring here. And if you can have a good sort of advanced warning of all of them, not just having the mirror windows to spot the drop when it happens, but also, you know, the pulse scanner to read ahead of time those evil eyes that can get a slightly more aggressive position potentially in the site, or maybe even ahead of it. It gives you a bit of an edge, and they're still doing their due diligence when it comes to the top floor setup, knowing that potentially Gamma will have to chew their way through multiple reinforcements and such, but there's nothing to protect it. The emphasis is purely on trying to take the fight to Gamma.
And we're seeing how this plays out for Makers. I mean, even starting around 4 versus 5, they still managed to just win out of pure fragging prowess. So they can replicate that performance again. But Gamma's going to understand. They should have a quick read of, okay, this is what happened last time. This should be something that was discussed in the timeout. Corey trying to get through the hole. Needs to make it a little bit wider. There we go. So the Finker is through. Going to reload that. Wonderful LMG, turns into an absolute laser beam when the Finker adrenaline boost is active. And now with a minute gone on the clock, nothing. This seems like one of the least bloody rounds we've had so far in the game. Usually we see someone getting a little too aggressive and getting picked off. Maybe Germany's going to be the first one to take that contact.
Corey being hot droned in by that Twitch drone right now, but he's decided to hold off on any further advances. Corey again with the entry. It has not been a problem for Gamma, even slightly getting these entry frags, but it's the follow-up that sometimes falls short. However, Avesh will take out Akwi, again, a key gunner for Makers, the player that is sitting top of the leaderboard in kills in this lobby, and he's dealt with a 5 versus 3 now. And Scatto still has control of the top floor, but this is a push from beneath for a fair part of this Gamma attack, so how much will that matter? Gemini taking a lot of flak here as Corey just mounts the stairs and keeps mowing bodies down. A second, it would seem, almost as Deepek is the one to take him out. Scatto descends the stairs and finds 2. One is down, it's the Finker, but Leonski is getting the plant out and he is able to hop out the window to safety. Scatto with some of that vertical destruction, just a little too late. He will drop surely into the waiting arms of a ton of bullets. Avesh is the one to claim his head. And a lovely take by Gamma Gaming, reading into that setup that they saw the first time and utterly demolishing it. What a round from Corey though.
I was a little worried as we hit the 3rd and 4th round that this was going to be a little bit one-sided for Makers, because I was hoping we would get a real barn burner. And I mean, you couldn't ask for a closer half. 3-3 Gamma mounting the small comeback to equalize the scoreline, but certainly showing mechanically that they can step up to the plate, that they can match Makers person for person, man for man, operator to operator. And now Makers, you know, they got a little bit of a taste of their own medicine, especially with the aggressiveness that in last 2 rounds Astro and Corey have displayed. Now I'm wondering, on the defense, are they going to carry through that aggressive nature that Gamma's been showing through the last couple of rounds? Because I'm sure Makers is going to absolutely send it when they can.
So we've got a little bit of the best of both worlds here when it comes to Gamma's setup. We saw, for instance, the very utility-heavy defense of Bar Gaming in the last match, and here Makers leaning a lot more into the intel side. We've actually got plenty of intel here, but of a different variety. The Mozzie, somewhat. Intel Denial, certainly. Occasional intel gatherer, but that Echo as well. Very, very useful when it comes to gathering intel. Enabling your roamers with the first drone, quite typically, and then the second as a last coat for the defense should a plant start to come down in the dying seconds. Classic operator. Really love playing, watching a good bit of Echo. But the main thing is they've also got those catches. Well, one catcher at least. They've got the mute. They've got the smoke to try and deny time and space on the very top floor. They are going to be playing Time Lord, playing Doctor Who up there. So they hope to expand the site as well beyond the physical realms of Bar Gaming and upwards and outwards, so that it's, you know, bigger on the inside, I guess. That's a very, very ham-fisted pun, but I will stick by it.
I dig it. I've right.
You're easily pleased.
I am. Look, I'm just happy to be here, I'll be honest. I'm with Jerry. I'm casting some good Siege. Gamma's delivering. Makers is delivering. It's just, it's a good day. It's a good day, that's all I can say. For either of these two teams, it might be a less than good day, depending on the result when we get to it, because both teams are really, really having it out for each other. Apart from Akwi, really, it's been quite level across the board. Everybody's contributing. Everybody's taking gunfights. In the last couple of rounds, Corey has really, really stepped up for the side of Gamma. Question is that going to carry on when they as they swap to defense? Halfway through the round, no blood has been spilt. And still Makers, they've got a lot more ground just to cover in general. There's a lot of flank positions that they have to worry about. So they've got to make quick work to try and clear this out. And now Corey's being revealed with the Yokai drone as well. Is going to get the support, going to go aggressive around the corner. And there's first blood onto Akwi of all players.
Rome stands strong for the time being. You could call it Rome, you could call it an extension of the site, whatever. Corey is doing it well. And Sasha sending in a ton of flashes to try and burn these magnets out. And the last one will actually be caught by a magnet and yet still blind Corey. And that's just the power of the flashes these days. It doesn't matter how far away they are. Oh, it doesn't matter how far away they are, but they're still powerful regardless. But either way, 5 bodies up for Gamma. They are looking like they're sitting pretty. Still Deepek in this power position. He can spend smokes all he wants, but the rounding of the corner by Lolo, taking out Corey, so pivotal. Astro, though, still in support inside of Library to get one in response. Deepek goes down. Now it's all up to Astro, but Lolo just storms through. 3 kills on the round for him, and the Rome has fallen. It's 395 AD right here with 20 seconds left, and Leonsky and Avesh, the last 2, holding down the fort. Waiting for these 3 players. Makers, they have to get a move on though. Sasha has managed to get himself into a plantable position. It looks like it's going down. There's no response, no resistance from Leonsky and Avesh. They are waiting, just letting it happen, and Avesh can't even get to sight quick enough. Leonsky sends out a C4, but it's almost completely blind as the bodies have now fallen back. Gemini, Lolo, so difficult to tackle in these extended positions for the post plant, and Avesh, he's hunting for Lolo. Leonsky goes down to a smidgen of HP as he can't contest this angle, decides to try and stick it, and at this point it's do or die. This is high risk strategy. Avesh with no C4 either decides to go up and try and deny the player on the hatch, but in the meantime his plant diffuser has been taken out and Lolo's waiting. 4 kills for him. Makers lock out that round. Their first attacking round gets them up to 4-3.
And, Fresh did some fantastic analysis on some of these teams going into the Challenger League. And the 2 players highlighted first were Lolo, because SI, the main players, top of the leaderboard in terms of kills, and also Akwi, who we've seen perform. So I was waiting for Lolo to just have that round where they just pop off, and we were just treated to it. Gamma being left in the dust. And now here, as we go to the secondary site, we're going to kitchen dining, which we've seen teams have different approaches previously. We've seen some clear upstairs, and then once they've done that, then push laterally or horizontally into the site. We've seen some try and contest vertically as well. Some try and push down the stairs and solar and what have you. We've seen different approaches, but it's been quite a steadfast site for the defense.
That it has, and you can see why they want to go here. It is solid. I feel like certainly the Kaid is incredibly useful here, as well as the Mute. Any form of Warden Arm on that top floor to prevent the quick entry is pivotal for this site. And Avesh also has the luxury of spending some of his jammers for drone denial more specifically, which will just enable those players on the top floor to prolong their lives and keep the key pieces of utility alive to protect those electric balls. We saw, for instance, in that first half, a point where a Twitch drone got so much value because it was able to sneak into office and take out the Kaid Claw, despite the fact there was a defender sitting there. If you're able to keep those defenders in those positions, then you keep those key pieces of utility alive. It's quite simple, but right now we're seeing Makers just approach this from the Solarium side for the most part. The final few pieces of utility going out. It's a fairly open setup. Lots of vertical angles, lots of lateral angles being made by Gamma. You can expect that they'll be supporting each other from across the map throughout this round. Scato trying to do some massive verticality here, clearing out as much as he can in Solarium from the very bottom floor, but also trying to stymie any sort of presence on those Solarium stairs himself.
Lakers already making quick work. Akwi with a swift double kill. Deepek and Astro going to be feeling that one. Corey is in those top stairs to try and get a little bit aggressive. That's a wonderful reply, but it's still not enough to level the playing field. Makers have that advantage. They've lost a buck, which is going to prove a little bit worrisome for them in terms of trying to play vertically. Corey, once again, being that player to really push Gamma across the line. And now that they're in a level playing field, this is where things get interesting. Neither team have all the utility that they would want at their disposal. And as the time ticks down, as the pressure mounts, both these sides have to decide what they're going to do. Gamma, are they going to play aggressive like Corey was, flanking, trying to be a bit proactive? Or are they going to try and anchor down and let Makers run into them? Makers, on the other hand, they don't have the buck. They don't have the Nomad anymore. How do they use the utility they've got left in their arsenal?
Got a fair number of frags, and if they can get a good lock on any of these defenders, then those might prove pivotal. But Lolo's just going for a slightly more direct approach, taking the fight onto Leonski, and he's very lucky to get away with it. But Avaish with a huge C4. That is a heads-up play and a half. This nade in response from Akwi, equally amazing, as now he's forced his way through to site. He's just trying to hunt for the remaining anchor. He knows that Corey must be about here somewhere. Corey goes down to Sasha. Avaish is on the site to hold the final attacker at bay. Sasha backs away out into the site. Still, he has diffuser. Avaish has to try and close the gap here with 15 seconds left. He's getting red pings, plenty of intel, but he can't land the shots, and Sasha sticks it in post-plant. But Avaish lands the headshot! A quad for him, and he has plenty of time to defuse. What a staggering performance from the Mute this round to clutch it and keep Gamma in this match.
Oh, Lord. I cannot take it on. Genuinely, the pressure is just insurmountable. It's like electricity in the air. The excitement is palpable at the moment. And what an incredible round by Avaish. Just,
I thought he'd lost it there.
like,
when the red pings were coming out and he wasn't landing the shots, I was like, no.
I was like, it's God. I was like, it's God. You know, they're not getting this round whatsoever. It's not happening. And then Hibana stands up. Sasha's just like trying to go for the engagement. I'm like, an SMG-11 versus Hibana, who already kind of knows what a mute is. This isn't going to end well. But, oh, what a swift headshot. That's beautiful. Beautiful stuff by Avaish. And Gamma, they equalize that scoreline 4-4. Incredibly close. And now it's off the bat, Jerry, of Akwi getting a fantastic entry and then a fantastic frag grenade, doing so much work.
Yeah, that was just a wild round through and through. I just had to piece together the fact that Avaish was not only the one clutching that at the death, but also sent out the C4. Like, that was a fantastic C4 from one window to another. You wouldn't think to do that, and just the call coming from the Maestro to say, hey, there's one on this window on main entrance, and I was beautiful. It was a beautiful little bit of play, and we're highlighting maybe the castle barricade, but also the window that he threw the C4 from. Just a, nice observation there. I'm staggered. This game is fantastic. This is exactly what we were hoping it would be. We said this would be the game, and it's the closest that we've had today. Ding FPS in chat has said, tell them to stop making it so close. I wish I could. I wish I could tell them, because my heart can't take it, Ding. My heart can't take it. We can see these barricades start to be opened up, and it looks like Makers, they're employing an interesting strategy for this top floor take. One that I'm a big fan of, which is control those windows. Very much like a culture that, may it rest in peace, holds on the top floor. A lot of the time you can just repel on those windows. And here, you've got so many opportunities for crossfires just to choke those defenders out and make it completely impossible to maneuver. Eventually, you're going to get a fish on the end of your hook.
We can't make it any closer. We can't stop them from making it close. But the issue is for both these teams, if they lose, they're mathematically they're pretty much out, I think, apart from maybe Makers, depending on how the other game shakes out.
Yeah, because they went to overtime in their first match, right? So no, Gamma went.
Yeah.
Makers went to overtime.
So it's huge stakes for both these teams, and the fact that both teams are in this position is exceptional. But Corey with Astro, what was that?
That was
at
genius.
this point in the game with this much pressure, why would you go for that? the absolute balls on these players to go for a play is just incredible.
That was amazing. They sent one to trigger the air jab and the second to follow up. That is incredible. Beautiful, beautiful teamwork there from Gamma. You love to see it. And now Makers, they have one body down. But Lolo, reassuming that position, gets Corey the second time of asking. Maybe biting off a bit too much there, Corey. 4 versus 4 now. And Akwi's forced his way into sight. Leonski goes down. That's opened the gates for Akwi to continue his entry. He pieces together a kill inside of Piano. A second onto the player inside of Office. The half wall dealt with. Ovation now the only one standing between Makers and a potential lead here as the plant is going down. He takes flak. They know where he is. He's getting red pings onto the planter. No, it's the player inside a half wall. Plant goes down inside of bedroom instead, and he's swinging on him. But the window play from Lolo is there to clean up Makers. That was explosive from them.
No way does Avage get away with clutching another round. It's not going to happen. Makers, they've learnt their lesson. They pull ahead once more. Partly just because of that one opening. Akwi just pushed it forward. You know, there was an inch given. He took a yard. The rest of the team took a mile. They just forced their way in, brute forcing their way through. Corey, maybe a little over-aggressive, going for that re-peak on the run-out. Yes, it can work, but it's just such a high-risk, high-reward play. You already got an advantage from it. You know, you got to be questioning, was it worth it? Was it the right play? Because it was read by Lolo, and you know, just the game sense from Makers to be aware of, okay, they played aggressive, they could well go for this run out again, so we need to watch it. Both these teams, it's like one team is pushing up the level, the other team reaches it and then pushes that like level even. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying pushing up. It's a bit like limbo at the moment. It's like both teams are getting like the bar's coming down. They're running out of time. Both teams are getting lower and lower each time.
Limbo's a weird analogy to go with because, of course, the usual analogy is the bar being raised, right? But in Limbo it works backwards. You have to lower the bar continually to make it harder. But yeah, I dig it. It makes sense, and I do love a bit of Limbo from time to time. But one problem I see right now is that Gamma, they're on the defense here. They're in bar, and the last time they defended here, they looked lost. They looked like they were the ones in Limbo, and I have concerns about that because Makers picked it apart very astutely. They went for a very sort of standard take across the top floor, and ultimately Gamma need to be a bit better when it comes to winning those gunfights on the top floor because they are favoured in your direction. You have the crossfire onto Piano Hallway. At one point, a player on Ivy died and there wasn't an immediate response. There absolutely needs to be an immediate response, or the Ivy player needs to be more passive because he is essentially the bait. The players on top of Fireplace, behind Pillar, the players inside of Library, they are the ones that need to be getting those frags once the attackers push through those positions. So just save your life if you're on Ivy sets. I can't remember who it was in the last round. I think it may have been Corey. He is assuming the Wumai. You would expect him to be in that spot. But either way, they're doing at least one thing good. They're wasting time. They have taken a slightly more advanced position. Corey shooting out a couple of drones in that sort of bathroom area and falling back. Now holding a tight pixel angle, more for the intel than anything else. He'll probably send a bullet or two the way of anyone that decides to peek, but then fall back. And that's one of the best things about pixel angles in this game, is that they're not just for taking fights.
Bomb located by attackers.
Information you can get from it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's another thing that the attackers have to consider. You know, they go, okay, there's a deployable shield here. Are they behind it? It's so difficult to spot them out. Sometimes you have to use drones to get that essentially burn through the utility just to know if you can swing an angle or not. But here we go. Forcing Corey off that angle allows Akwi to sort of just step on through into the office. He's going to go for a long frag grenade, long arm it straight through, and it's cooked to perfection. The Italians come through with even more of their own cookout. It is just the Italians all day. There's no chance at the moment for Gamma. They've got to try and recover anything, and that is just adding insult to injury with the air jab. That information is going to go over to Makers. They should be able to play around it. And Gamma, the pressure is on. They need to find anything to claw back this round.
Makers are currently dishing out toppings from above as well. Plenty of verticality as Sasha looks set to try and push in, sends a nade or flash nade behind the bar. Corey does take down Aqui. Finally some hope for Gamma. Astro trying to make a play coming out the site, but he's gobbled up by Lolo. Meanwhile, Corey is felled, leaving Leonski in a 1 versus 4. There's still time for Makers to stuff this crust, but they will go for the old classic instead. A bit of garlic dust on there to top it all off. A nice frag at the very end of it from the spear. Makers, they've pushed themselves up to match point.
Despite this absolute feast that we have the luxury of commentating on, both teams are still hungry. You know, Makers, that you can see them that every time Corey is in the pocket, in the zone, they immediately pounce on him to try and trade. Like, they don't allow Corey the freedom that Aqui's being afforded to make a play and then push it even further. They're trying to restrict it and just throw bodies at Corey to nullify his effect. Now Gamma, it's do or die. They are against the wall. They have to win the next 2 rounds. If they lose anything, if they lose a round, they are out of Challenger League. Even, I'm pretty sure, even with the game tomorrow as well. So this is it for Gamma. This is absolutely it.
Yeah, we were talking a lot before the game about the sort of intricacies of, you know, whether people go to overtime and they get 2 points or 1 point, whatever, and how that might affect the standings. To be honest, what we've worked out is that in a best of 1 round robin, single round robin, it really doesn't make much difference. Like, it comes down to head-to-head 99% of the time. So if you lose your 2 games, then that's pretty much it. You're very unlikely to get through with 3, 4, or even 5 points, potentially, if you win that last game. It's a tough format, this one. We've mentioned it so many times. Corey, though, he has been a driving force for Gamma in this game. What a pickup he has been. 10 kills. He finally enters double digits. Joins Aqui and Lolo in that elite club. Taking out Lolo as well. A big one for the defense here. Early on, no nades, no thinker boosting. And none of those 12 kills that we've seen. No more for him, at least this round.
So Gamma, step 1 on their checklist has been ticked off. The fact that Lolo has been dying so early in a lot of rounds, but is still on 12 kills is absolutely insane. Corey going for a run out again. Didn't find anything, but Makers on their toes. They've got to be careful because Corey can run out of any door, any window, and try and start applying a pressure outside.
But look at that, like, you know, it's so good from Gamma to just keep them busy, right? Like, Aqui should not have to stare at that window. Like, that is not part of the strat. You know, you don't think, okay, when you're building a strat, okay, if we go 1 man down, then this is what we do. You don't think he's got to watch that window. Like, Gamma are doing all this crazy, nutty, bonkers crap, and it's working. It's slowing down Makers to the point where they're looking a bit unsure of themselves in places. They're missing pieces. Leonski gets a whiff of the Buck through the wall, but it's the soft destruction Maestro himself, Buck, that will fell the Maestro on the other side. And now 4 versus 4, and parity restored for the Makers.
Oh, Germany. There we go. Deepek falls down, but Corey goes aggressive, but it doesn't matter. Germany's just taking their heads, taking names, making it as difficult as possible for Gamma. And now, despite Corey's fantastic plays, and of course, Avesh, the hero who managed to clutch out that round previously, this is such a tall task for both these players. Aqui's still alive. They've still got utility, and 40 seconds is no slouch when it comes to time to play with. They've got to start making a move. Aqui's going to ping out, use the hologram of the Iana as much as possible. Gemini, first one to go down, but is not out. Sasha, Aqui still remain, but Avesh goes aggressive, completes that kill. Sasha getting tagged down very low, 20 seconds. Got to get a move on, got to go quick. Aqua, there we go, straight on in. Corey's the recipient. It comes down to a 2-on-1. Avesh has to win out this clutch. Otherwise, Gamma is going to be exiting the Challenger League 2021 Once again, they've got to push on through. Sasha goes down. Avesh potentially can do it. Has to find Akwi, who's going to start reviving their teammate into a 2 versus 1. Avesh finds Akwi. Sasha is incredibly low HP. Got to push on through. Got to try and find a Hibana. And Mkers do it. They survive to fight another day. And Gamma Gaming have been eliminated from Challenger League.
What a match, and what a performance from Makers. Heartbreak for Gamma as once again they fall short of the mark. It's just